All right, I'm going to call us to order at 1:03. Are we recording, Nikki? Do you need me to wait?
Okay. Will Nikki be sharing the agenda, or should we pull it up?
She will pull up the land acknowledgement. So calling us to order at 1:03 and waiting for Nikki. She'll pull up the land acknowledgement, and Trustee McKee will be reading it. Whenever you're ready, Trustee McKee.
Okay. I'm good to go. Can you hear me?
You betcha. Go right ahead.
I just got to move all the people's pictures out of the way here. There we are. Welcome to our division office located on the traditional land and territory of the Niitsitapi, the Piikani, Kainai, and Siksika, the Blackfoot people within the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta.
Thank you. We will now do O Canada. If everyone could just please turn off your cameras.
Turn off my camera.
Wait for all cameras to come back on. Trustee McKee, can you turn your camera on, please?
Working on this. You cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Oh, because you left it on, so I
I thought I shut it off.
No.
How do I get it back on then? Here, try this. No. How do I get it back on? I don't know.
There, you should be able to.
Host asked you to start your video. Okay, start my video. Okay, there we are. Thank you.
Perfect. Oh. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, my fault.
Recommendation that the April 20th, 2021 consent agenda be approved by the Board of Trustees as presented or amended. Can I get someone to make that motion, please? Trustee Poitras. Again, I'll only be asking if any opposed. Seeing none, passed. Emergent changes to the agenda. Recommendation that the April 20th, 2021 regular board meeting agenda be approved by the Board of Trustees as presented or amended. Can I get someone to make that motion? Trustee Toon?
Madam Chair,
yes.
I'd like to put an emergent item on that.
Okay, thank you. We will put that under.
I think that should have been done before Trustee Toon. Oh no, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, there are two emergent items.
Yeah. So we'll make that E2. Sorry, not E2, but E3. Sorry.
E3 and E4.
Yeah. So E3 will be the draft K to 6 curriculum, and then E4 will be advocacy committee. Okay. Any more discussion around emergent changes to the agenda? Any opposed? Sorry, everyone, I just need cameras on to make sure that there's no opposed. Did we lose Trustee McKee? Oh, there he is. Okay, you're moving around so much. I can't keep track of everybody. So no opposed. Thank you.
I'm having computer problems.
Okay.
So if I'm here, I'm here. If not, I'm in the cloud somewhere.
Okay. Declaration of conflict of interest. Is there any conflicts of interest that the Board of Trustees declare if they have any conflicts of interest relating to the agenda items from the 2020-21 board meeting, and if so, should declare them? Seeing none. Moving on to action items. E1, Y2Y. At a previous board meeting, we had a motion approving Trustee Long to attend Y2Y and provide feedback as to the benefit after attending the meeting. It was determined that this was an important opportunity. Recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve the creation of an ad hoc committee for Y2Y with one trustee as primary and one as alternate to attend if the primary trustee could not. Can I get someone to make that motion? Trustee Long, were you making that? Would you like to speak to it?
Yes. There seems to be, well, there is a lot happening economically, residentially, culturally in the Crow's Nest Pass right now. And this Y2Y advisory panel was created because of that. It encompasses all of Livingston School Division and a little bit more as far as communities. Even on Friday night, I was in a seminar with students from the University of Calgary. 15 of them had spent last summer researching the Crow's Nest Pass and developing a municipal plan. It was excellent. And that's why the Y2I has been set up, because our housing is booming, businesses are opening up, and there seems to be a lot happening here. And obviously the Livingston School Division should be aware of what's happening and have some input into what's happening.
Thank you, Trustee Long. Is there any questions? Trustee Poitras?
Would you recommend that the alternate then be the other trustee in your ward?
No, not necessarily.
Or anyone? Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Any other questions? Trustee Tim?
I'll respond to that, Madam Chairwoman, just briefly. Lacey, it's although it's specific, what's starting out, the Y2Y to the Crow's Nest Pass, it's not. It's everything from Cardston to Nanton. So, yeah, no, it definitely can be somebody else.
Trustee Tim?
Sorry, I apologize. I got two systems going because, like Trustee McKee, internet is at a premium, I guess, out here in the rural areas. I just want to thank Trustee Long again for bringing this forward. I think this is a phenomenal opportunity, and I think it's key that LRSD has representation from the board here to continue on, and appreciate at the start of this to recognize that it would be good to have an alternate in that position, and I support that.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Seeing none, the recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve the creation of an ad hoc committee for Y2Y with one trustee as primary and one as alternate to attend if the primary trustee could not. Any opposed? Seeing none, passed. Recommendation 2, that the Board of Trustees move to appoint trustee Long was already appointed, so do we just appoint him as our main one, and then we just need an alternate to attend on his behalf if he cannot. Trustee Toon?
I'd be willing to make the motion.
Okay.
And I don't know if there's anyone else who's interested, but I'd be interested in being alternate on that as well, getting a regional perspective. I think, as Trustee Long said, there's a lot going on regionally, and being involved with things provincially, I've been able to hear a lot of the concerns that are happening in the more broader area. So I think that would be a good resource for that. But
thank you, Trustee Toon. Was there anyone else wanting to step in for alternate? Trustee Poitras? Did you want to speak, Trustee Poitras?
No, I just think, yeah, like same as Brad. Like the more perspective we can gain, the more information and knowing what's going on throughout our division. I feel like education is so closely tied with what's happening in our communities and developmentally around that it all ties together, and the more knowledge we can have, the better. So I'm always happy to, be on these different committees where I can gain more understanding and deepen my knowledge.
Thank you. Was there anybody else wanting to put their name forward? Trustee Long?
I would just mention to both Trustee Poitras and Trustee Toon that you will realize very quickly, and you probably already have, but how directly we are tied to the economy in our communities. And that's probably the main reason why this is so important.
Thank you, Trustee Long. Trustee Toon?
yeah, I appreciate Trustee Long's comments on that. Sitting on the Chamber of Commerce in Claresholm for the last 4 or 5 years, being on their board there, when the community's goals align around building stronger communities, I think that starts with our strong schools that we have currently and making sure that we maintain that. So I wholeheartedly agree that we're interwoven in the fabrics of our community and building them stronger through the economy. And what's taking place now is pretty special to be at the start of it.
Thank you. Did you have any closing comments at all, Trustee Poitras? Okay, so this is new to us, to me. I'm not exactly sure because we need to do a vote now between Trustee Toon and Trustee Poitras. So I'm wondering if we could just send your votes directly to me via the chat, and then I will calculate who the winner of the votes. So I don't have any other suggestions unless anyone else has anything else they can suggest, but I'm just wondering if everybody is okay with that. Trustee Toon?
I think the direct message is great, but usually we do it to Nikki or Jeff or someone like that, just so we don't have to be involved as trustees with the counting of the ballots.
Okay, Jeff's not with us today, so Nikki, we could definitely do that. Nikki, are you okay if everybody sends you their responses and then you can send the response to me of the winner?
Yes, I can.
Okay, and everybody knows how to send a direct response to Nikki? So if you go into your chat and where it says to everyone, you click on that and you click just to Nikki. once Nikki's has established it. Okay, she just sent me a message. Okay, perfect. So the Board of Trustees move to appoint Trustee Long as the Y2Y representative and Trustee Toon as the alternate. Congratulations, Trustee Toon, not Ton. I just renamed you, sorry. And so we had a motion on the floor for that. So any opposed? It wasn't voted on, so I can't see it, how it's opposed, but okay, seeing none, so that's passed. Moving on to E2, professional learning. The Board of Trustees, recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the following trustees to attend the following professional development. Was there any PD sessions that anybody needed approval for? Okay, seeing none, I just want to remind everybody that we have our spring general meeting coming up June 7th for ASBA that we all can attend, and they will be sending out a link and everybody will need to register for them. We're now moving on to E3, our emergent item. Is the recommendation, number one, it's under the draft K-6 curriculum. So based on the recommendation from senior administration and due to timing, the Board of Trustees makes a motion that LRSD will not pilot the new K-6 curriculum in the 2021-2022 school year. Clara, Trustee Agus, were you making that motion?
Yes, I am.
Would you like to speak to it at all?
Would like to turn it over to Chad Kuzik to, I'm getting a feedback here, but to make the comments right now, because he had something.
Perfect. Mr. Kuzik, would you like to speak?
It'd be my pleasure. I'm going to just review the process for the board of how we received some information regarding this. So on March 29th, the draft curriculum was released, and it was our first opportunity to take a look at this in detail. On April 8th, the meeting with the Deputy Minister of Education regarding the draft curriculum, I attended and received some information regarding that. On April 13th, it was our initial public release, which basically stated that we're working through a process to engage our stakeholders before we made any decisions on piloting the new draft curriculum. We began collecting feedback on April 14th with admin council and our principals and received from feedback regarding that at that time. On April 15th, we met with the numeracy committee as well to receive their feedback. On April 16th, we met with the literacy committee to receive some of their feedback. On April 15th as well, we engaged the FNMI committee and received some feedback from them. And on April 16th, we developed some feedback regarding early learning. And then on April 16th as well, I attended the piloting information session held by Alberta Education. Through all those feedback sessions, we provided some resources such as the draft curriculum, the LRSD stakeholder communication, so basically what LRSD has stated in our process and how we're going to move forward with that. We also provided staff with the Have Your Say Alberta survey to direct parents to be able to have their say. I provided an LRSD feedback tool, which was a survey to go in depth about some parts of the curriculum and looking at different information regarding the curriculum and potentially piloting it. And with all of that, we had a curriculum comparison tool we used. We provided some analysis from some academics in the province, any information both for and against, for them to dig deeper into the curriculum and provide that information. So after all of that, as April 20th, the information was collected and shared to the Board of Trustees for consideration in determining the division's participation in piloting the new draft curriculum. So that was the process we went forward. Lori, I think you're on mute.
You got to do it at least once. Thank you very much. Was there any questions or comments? Trustee, I guess, do you want to, or I saw you unmuted, so I wasn't sure. No? Okay. Trustee Toon?
Sorry, too many buttons here. No, I want to just thank our administration for their really in-depth dive. This has it's always crazy when these things come up to fit them into already busy schedules, but with everything that's going on with COVID and the tireless effort you guys have put in on that, keeping everything rolling and on that, this has just been huge for you, and appreciate the work that you guys have done on this. I really think that this really helped inform our decision. I know for myself, it is really appreciated.
Thank you, Trustee Toon. Trustee Burdette?
I took my hand down because I was going to say exactly what Brad just said. So, yeah, just echoing that same thing.
Thank you, Trustee Burdette. Any other questions, comments? Trustee Yegas?
I'll just say this, that yes, I totally agree. I think Chad did a really good presentation right now in terms of all the information they have gathered and the reasoning behind it. And once again, due to the wellness in that for our teachers and staff, I think we have come up to with a logical and reasonable conclusion to this. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no other questions or comments, any opposed? Seeing none. Pass. Thank you. Unanimously. Recommendation number 2, that the Board of Trustees direct the Advocacy Committee to write a letter to Alberta Education, CC to Minister LaGrange, MLA Roger Reid, ASBA, PASS, and all board chairs to indicate we will not be piloting the draft K-6 curriculum in the 2021-2022 school year due to timing, stakeholder concerns, and effects on teachers and students. Trustee Long, were you making that motion?
Yes.
Would you like to speak to it?
Proper protocol would dictate that we follow through in this manner and present a letter to the other institutions, committees.
Perfect, thank you. Is there any questions, comments? Trustee Poitras?
Just as far as it saying due to timing, should it say something in there like what do you mean due to timing? Due to timing with the COVID pandemic, or is that clear enough? Just due to timing.
Trustee Yegas?
I would think that what was meant when we said due to timing on that it would be the timing of the introduction of this curriculum, especially for the new year, and that the teachers and students are getting over, or working with the COVID and having to. There's a lot of things they're going to have to do. So we could add on to that, but that would be my assumption on.
Any other questions or comments around Trustee Poitras's comment? In the above motion, we also mentioned due to timing, so I think it kind of mirrors the above motion. So I think that in our letter, we can just expound on it further.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none. Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you. All right, moving on to our discussion items. We have F1, adjusted school week survey results. Carly Bond, coordinator of communications, culture, and engagement, will present the parents and staff survey results. The Board of Trustees will then discuss next steps. Welcome, Carly.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me today. I'm just going to share my screen here, and I'll talk to you for a few minutes about the results of the Adjusted School Week Interest Survey. Oh, Okay, there we go. So from March 8th to 12th of this year, parents and staff of Livingston Range School Division were invited to participate in a survey on Google Forms to see if there was interest in the Board of Trustees exploring adjustments to the school week. They were invited electronically, and there was also an option, especially for parents, to participate offline if they wanted to. In this survey, we gave some background, and so part of that is that in the fall, we did a thought exchange with all of our stakeholders and about the calendar, and there was some interest expressed in possibly an adjusted school week. We're really grateful for our stakeholder feedback, which helped develop the school year calendar for 21-22. And because of some of the resulting comments that were shared, we wanted to see if there was broad enough interest in exploring some adjustments. Our survey asked two main questions. One, where do you live or teach or work? And two, what are you interested in? Participants could select one, two, or all three of, I prefer the current school week, I'm interested in the board exploring a 4-day school week, and I'm interested in the board exploring a 5-day school week. Oh, sorry guys, okay. So we had 332 staff participate, and as you can see from this really pretty colorful wheel, really good representation from all of our communities. Staff, by a slight majority, were more interested in the Board of Trustees pursuing the idea of a 4-day school week. That's the middle bar. The top bar is current school week, and the bottom bar is a 5-day school week. You'll notice that the percentages do not add up to 100, and that's because people could choose 1, 2, or all 3 options. Here's an overview of what staff responded. The yellow columns in the middle is all the data together. And so that's, did they choose 1, did they choose 2, or did they choose 3 of those options? And the blue columns look at if people chose just one thing, what was it? We figured there might be some interest in knowing if people picked one thing, they probably felt more strongly about it. As it turns out, the data completely correlates between if we look at all the data together or those who just chose one thing, what rose to the top was the same every time between all data and one choice. You can see here that it's broken down by community. For example, in Granham, the top choice of all the data was keep it the same, we like the current, and the top choice, if people just selected one thing, was also keep it current. Fort Macleod results would have included division office staff. Okay, so the parent and guardian responses, we had 1,412 participants, again from all of our communities participating. Parents, it was almost exactly evenly split between keeping the current school week, that's the top bar, or looking at the idea of a 4-day school week, that's that middle bar. The bottom bar is looking at a 5-day school week. And just as a note here, some of the responses that we got from Hutterite Colony parents, we would have perhaps one parent fill out the survey on their colony, but it perhaps represented more parents, or sometimes several parents on a colony. And so those numbers are included here in this data. Also, the colony schools have a little bit, some of them have a bit different of a schedule as well. So our current 4-day with early noon on Friday might not exactly correlate with what's happening on individual colonies. So here are the parent and guardian results. Again, we found a direct correlation between all the data and if a parent or guardian just chose one of those options. It was still the same what rose to the top. So you can see here that it's split mostly between liking the current schedule and considering a 4-day adjusted school week. So the summary observations are, I've broken them down here. The first column is the community. The middle column is what the top choice of staff was. Third column is the top choice third column, the top choice of what parents and guardians wanted for. So the asterisks indicate the two communities where staff and parents differed a little bit. So you'll see in the Crow's Nest Pass, while staff top choice was 4 days, parent and guardian top choice was current schedule. And the same thing there on the Hutterite Colony. That is the only place where there's differences between staff and parent top choice. So for both staff and parents and guardians, it was really close between keeping the current school week and looking at what a 4-day week might be. You can see here from the data, there's really not much interest in exploring the 5-day week. And it's pretty evenly split between how both staff and parents feel about keeping the current schedule or perhaps looking at a 4-day week. All right, so that is the data from the interest survey. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to address those.
Any questions at all? Trustee McKee?
Thank you for sharing that data. Just a couple of observations. Like you said, there could be some discrepancies in the data based upon that people could have voted more than once. You have choices between the all data versus the one choice, and there could be some questioning with the Hutterite colonies and how their parents actually voted. So there could be some discrepancies there, but I think the data is pretty good that you presented. One thing that I noticed is that Ward 1, if you're talking about, like the 4 communities that make up Nanton, Graham, Savoy, and Claresholm, the staff and the parents all voted for the current to have things remain the same. So there is some discrepancy or differences between the various wards. I just thought I'd point that out. Some wards are more, they're more interested in the 4-day, but I would say that Ward 1 is probably predominantly they voted for the current position.
Okay, thank you, Trustee McKee. Trustee Poitras?
I can never remember how to put my hand up on here. I'll try and find it, but
it's under the reactions.
Oh, okay.
It is easier if you guys raise your hands, because then I can exactly see who's in the next order, and just in case I miss you putting up your hands physically, but yeah.
I'll do better.
That's okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, so I was really excited by the number of responses we got. There was a large number of parents and staff who responded. And I think one of the most important things to remember is that right now we weren't asking anyone if they were interested in moving to a different situation where they might go full days on Fridays, or where they might never go on Fridays and only ever attend 4 days. What we were asking is if you'd be interested in seeing what the options are. And so when you see people who are saying, like, I'm comfortable with what we have right now, maybe I'd be interested in seeing this or that, it just means that they are comfortable with where we're at right now, but not necessarily that they're closed off to any of the other options. And so I think that, in my opinion, we got enough response and enough people interested that I think it would be worth looking at what it would look like if we had kids going to school 4 days a week, because there was the most interest in that, and then bringing back the options to show all of our stakeholders. Like, we heard that you would be interested in what a 4-day work or a 4-day student attending school week would look like. And so now we're bringing it back to you to show you just exactly what that does look like in terms of if they would ever be going to school on Fridays, if the days would be 2 hours longer or 10 minutes longer, if, you know. So I think that would definitely be worth looking into. And in my opinion, I think that we should. That's kind of how the survey results read to me, but I was very impressed with the number of responses we got. And that's part of the reason why I think we need to move forward with this.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Poitras. Trustee Kuhn.
Thank you. Appreciate what Carly brought forward. Really love when we get to hear from our parents and hear their voice. And from what I heard, that was a pretty quick response time that they got in there rather quickly with everything that's going on. And I'm glad we had that with all the surveys that we've had lately in the government, that we're not seeing them not wanting to engage. So I think that's a really positive sign. I'd agree with what Trustee Poitras said. I think it's clear that there isn't a desire to look at the 5-day. This should help in that discussion. We should continue to look in at the 4-day. Speaking about the schools that I attend in Ward 1, some of the challenges, feedback I got after the survey was that parents filling out the survey weren't opposed to it, but they thought in voting for it that even though it said explore, that might be justification to automatically go to a 4-day week. And I thought it was clear as a parent reading the survey. I thought it was clear, but we've had a lot more discussions about it than I think our parents have. So that was one concern that they expressed, that they thought asking would give us a mandate to automatically go to that without having another discussion. And I said that wasn't true at all. We were just engaging about interest to have the discussion. So. But other communities, it was a coin flip. So pretty clear 50-50 throughout the division for staff and parents. So I appreciate the work that went into this.
Thank you, Trustee Toon. Trustee Burdett.
Got it. Yeah, I think it was interesting data, and I was also really impressed with how many people responded. I think it'll be interesting now to sit down as trustees and staff and weigh the pros and cons of both scenarios. We know where we sit on the one, but see how much extra time kids got to go to school in a day, or all of those things that come with a 4-day week, and go through the pros and cons and put the interest of students at heart when we look at that, and see just how that would pan out. Yeah, so that's all I have.
Thank you, Trustee Burdett. Trustee Yegas.
Yeah, I at the school council I was at last month, they were very concerned. They were very interested in knowing what was, where we were going to go with this and what was going to happen, and the results of this too. So now we can go back and talk to our mention to our school councils that these were the results, and once again they wanted to know, get information themselves on what had happened. I mean, they have the survey, so what is going to happen now with it, and what were the results? So thank you, Carly, for putting this together. I think this is going to help answer some of the questions.
Thank you, Trustee Yegas. Trustee McKee.
Yes, if you move ahead with this and you actually go through the various options that you have, or the possibilities that you could have within a 4-day week, I think you should also at that time still leave one of the questions as being, do you want to have things remain the same? So you can offer people different scenarios for the 4-day week, but I think you should still allow them to select a choice as being, I wish things to remain as the same as the current situation.
Thank you, Trustee McKee. Any other questions or comments? So in order for us to move forward with this, we'd need a clear motion coming out of this to direct, because it'd be central office doing the work. And so we'd need a clear motion directing what the board would like. Trustee Poitras?
I would make that motion, and I would make the motion that the Board of Trustees ask that administration bring back the options for students going to school 4 days a week. So I guess in my mind that there could be more than one scenario, depending on, you know, if students are going to go Monday to Thursday, and then if Monday's a holiday, they go on Friday, or if they never go on Fridays, or so I guess that would be up to admin to see what those different options would look like, and be a good fit. I don't know. Does anyone have any thoughts on the wording of that motion?
Here we got Trustee Long's hand up, and then Trustee Burdette.
Yeah, so I have a couple comments before we create a motion or recommendation. I would want to know the positives and the negatives of a shortened week, shortened Friday, compared to the positives and negatives of a 4-day school week. So part of that motion, I think, should direct or could direct administration to present to us the stats, the information, the research that they found about each one. And then also, I think in our recommendation, we might want to consider a date. So like, are we asking administration to start this next week or next September?
Thank you, Trustee Long. We got Trustee Yegus.
Yes, in terms of the motion itself, I think it should talk about looking at the different possibilities for as a result of this survey. And once again, as Trustee Long said, it would be the pros and cons. I think we need to have information on that and look at it in terms of, you know, is it, when is the best time that we could be presenting this? Should we do another survey? And I think there's a lot of things that we have to take into consideration on that.
Thank you, Trustee Yegus. Trustee Burdette?
Yes, I think, I don't know whether we, I believe we need to know the pros and cons. I agree with that, and we need, I think we need to look at those pros and cons, and we need to ask administration to come back with a recommendation as well as to what they think would be the best. We've already done a survey which put all this on the table. We might look at the list of pros and cons, and we might not have to go back and ask anybody else any questions. If the list of pros and cons are definitely in favor of one or the other, then I believe we as trustees can also make that decision. If it's something where we're split and we think we need that input, I think we can go back and ask for it. But I think it's now, they've said they're interested, we can take a look at it. If if the cons outweigh the pros and we can make that decision, I don't think we have to send it back for the decision to be made somewhere else. So I'm not sure what that does to helping you make your motion.
Sorry, can I just get clarity? Sorry, just for clarity, Jim, you're saying if administration comes back with a pros and a cons list and the pros of a 4-day school week outweigh the cons, then you think you would say we could just move to a 4-day week without going back to the stakeholders again?
Well, I'm saying we can make that decision.
Okay.
My personal thing is I don't think my personal thing is I don't think the pros and cons will lean in that direction. I think the pros and cons will probably lead back to status quo. But we need to look at that and we need to see. I'm just saying that we probably don't have to go back to the public. We are tasked with making those decisions.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Burdette. And we have Trustee Toon next.
Thanks. I agree with the administration bringing back pros and cons and exact numbers, what it could look like, and some creative solutions surrounding what that could look like for a 4-day week. I think we're going to have some great discussions about this. I don't agree that we have a mandate to impose a 4-day week based on any evidence that could be brought forward without getting a vote from stakeholders. I think it's key that something that could be that monumental shift has to be a collaborative approach, and we've continued that with all our other decisions up until that point. And I think it's key that we get this completed as best we can with our current board before we expire. So we currently have motions that are on the books to bring back reports in September. So I would ask that the subsequent motion state that it comes back in September as well for discussion and talk about next steps. Whether anything moves forward at that time, it will be up to the board based on the best and most current information we could have. But I think that motion needs to be clear that we are not going to further explore the 5-day week, because we need something that states that. Because currently we have a motion that says it will come to September as well as this. We could not have any motions whatsoever. We could just take the survey today and say, well, we're going to get our reports in September, but I don't want to do any work, have this administration doing any work when there isn't an appetite at all to examine the 5-day week anymore. So I think it's prudent that we have a good, clear motion. And I would ask that if we could wordsmith that and get to that and then debate that.
Thank you, Trustee Toon. One more comment, Trustee McKee, and then we just need to clarify the motion, please.
Okay, now for myself, I think there's 2 different scenarios that you should be looking at for pros and cons. The one could be the pros and cons of the various options of the 4-day week, or what about the pros and cons, the current versus a possibility of a 4-day week? To me, there's 2 different clarifications there. Are we going to address both of those?
Okay, thank you, Trustee McKee. Trustee Long, does this regarding the motion? Okay, please go ahead.
I think we also need to consider in our motion when we talk about wording is that we might have quite a different board come next October. So when we're putting our wording in there for research and presentations by administration, we need to consider that as well, date-wise.
Thank you. Trustee Toon, I think, said that to have it come back in September before a new board is possible. So this board would be going back out to the public and helping make the decision. So does anybody have any motions moving forward? Trustee Toon?
I thought Trustee Poitras put one out at the start of it. Can we get that
He was asking for
please?
input into it, so I don't have anything written down for it. So Trustee Poitras, could you reiterate it?
Yeah. So just to be clear, this survey, does that mean that the other motions that we had come forward, this survey ends those motions, closes them out as complete?
No, I don't think so, because we're doing a continuation of it now because, sorry, excuse me. This is just a motion now to direct central office. We've had the survey done and determined which direction we're going, but we still need to have the results back in September, as far as my understanding is. But now we need to direct central office and exactly how we want to move forward with those two motions.
Okay. So I need to come up with wording on it?
Yeah. I see Trustee Yegas has her hand up. Do you have some wording, Trustee Yegas?
I'm going to write for a minute here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of information of what we should be putting into this motion, and I would like to see this motion done in a proper way. So are we going to be able to sit here and think up a good motion now, or can we leave it to a point where we could discuss this motion, or maybe we should just put something, and I'm just asking Trustee Poitras on this one, that we could direct central office to look at the pros and cons.
If we want to make sure we get a proper motion, I could entertain an idea even of a notice of motion for the next board meeting.
Then I will entertain a notice of motion for the next board meeting.
Trustee Burdett, I see your hand up.
So I was messing with some wording. Do we want to mess with the wording now, or just bring the motion for the next meeting? So I'll just read it. Here we go. That the Board of Trustees direct admin to explore the pros and cons of options of a 4-day week versus the status quo with shortened Fridays by, and I can't remember what date we want. And I think that pretty well covers it all, right?
Trustee Yutun, I see your hand up.
Can we get that reread?
Sure.
Just sorry. I was with you till the last part.
I will go slower. That the Board of Trustees direct administration to explore the pros and cons of options of a 4-day week. So that's meaning there could be more than one option for the 4-day week versus the status quo, which is the shortened Fridays that we now have by, and then just put the date in at the back.
Trustee Tan?
I would support the motion. I think that if it's not clear enough in the pros and cons, I think we need to articulate that what the educational requirements are. I think that's pretty self-explanatory to us, but maybe not to the public. That if we said it's all about time and hours and what the requirements in the Education Act stay, we have to have. So I thought about it and maybe adding something around that, and having September be the date that the report comes back, giving ample time with everything that's going on. And then the last piece I would add that we can have it in a separate motion to clarify that we ask administration not to bring back the report for September for the 5-day week, because we can't rescind it because it's already been worked on. They've already done some information on it, but that we have a subsequent motion, so we don't muddy the waters with this one. It's going to be pretty long after it all.
Okay, Trustee Poitras?
Let me put it in chat.
Okay. My concern with the motion, as Jim has it, is like in that motion, you're asking them to look at like, what are the options for the 4-day student week look like? So they need to first figure that out and then compare the pros and cons. And when you talk about the pros and cons, it's like, where are we expecting admin to go get this information? Like, where are we expecting them to go? Like, are we expecting them to go to schools that currently have a 4-day student attendance and ask them what their pros and cons are? Are we expecting that they will ask parents what the parents feel like a pro and con list would be? Are we asking them to compare the pros and cons only against 5 days there, 4 days there? So to me, I was wondering, what if we just went back to, because we made this 2 separate motions, what if we just went back to that original motion that says that the Board of Trustees explore the options of moving students to a 4-day school week to better support student and staff mental health? So what if we just asked that the admin see what the options of that 4-day week look like and bring that back to us? Because if they bring it back to us and we see like the only way to go 4 days a week means every day is going to be 90 minutes longer, then we as trustees already know that's enough information. There's no way we're sending our kids to school from 8 a.m. to 4 in the afternoon every day. We can't do that. It's too much. So maybe we could ask them to bring us what the options for that would look like. And then if that's something that we're like, okay, that's reasonable, that's doable, let's now take it out to the staff, to the parents, and see, now that you know what it actually looks like, what does everyone think? What's the plus? What's the negative? So maybe before we ask them to start getting that information, we can just task them with what could that potentially look like?
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Poitras. We have Trustee Yegas next.
Yeah, I agree with Trustee Poitras on that one. I think we got to watch what we're going to ask administration to do right now, because this is a busy time of the year. A lot of things are going on, and but I think if we look at just asking them to look at the options for a 4-day week, I mean, or the pro, like what could we do, and then make the motion to that. And then if we have another, like at the next meeting, if we want more information, we can ask them for the more information or make another motion to this. Because I think we're going to get, with all the things that have been put out here, we're going to be asking the admin to do a lot of work. And is this the time to ask them to do it?
Thank you, Trustee Yegas. I just want clarification just before I call on you, Trustee Long. So if we decided to just do the 4-day week in asking for information on that, then there wouldn't necessarily be another motion. We could just follow through with the motion that was made originally, but we would need to make the motion to not bring back the 5 days a week and cancel that motion out. That's what you were saying. So I think that's a continuation of the motion. I don't necessarily know if we need another one, like Trustee Poitras was saying. So Trustee Long, you're next.
A 4-day school week isn't anything new. I was involved in research and presentation on 4-day school weeks way back in the early 80s. And for sure it goes back farther than that. So the research would be out there that's already been done on having a 4-day week. And we have boards in Alberta and in Canada that have been on 4-day school weeks for decades. So just a statement that it wouldn't be hard, like Trustee Poitras was saying, like, where do you find this? It would be really easy, I think, to get the information from both research that's been done and from boards that are already and have been functioning on a 4-day school week.
Thank you, Trustee Long, trustee McKee.
Well, I keep going back to, I don't mind you looking at all the options of a 4-day school week. I mean, that's fine with me, but in Ward 1, most of the people voted for the current. So if you just give them the 4-day school week options, they're gonna like, well, is the current situation no longer available? So I think you should make it clear that you have to convince those people that a 4-day school week is going to be better than the current situation. So I don't think you can just dwell on the 4-day school week. You have to compare the current situation, at least for Ward 1, to the possibility of a 4-day school week. And then they can make their decision from seeing that data versus the current situation.
Trustee Toon.
Thanks. I'll make a statement. Then I'd like to hear from Trustee Burdette, because we're kind of debating two separate motions at once, and what his thoughts on what Trustee Poitras threw out there. I think we're trying to complete this all in one step. We're trying to eat the elephant in one bite here, where let's just get the information that we requested in September, and then this board can make a decision if there's a go forward or not. That doesn't mean we're at the end of the road where parents vote on this or not. They might need more information brought back from administration. There might be more pros and cons and research and stuff that needs to be brought forward, but we don't have to ask for the whole buffet to have a great meal. Let's just continue on. I think I like what the Trustee Poitras threw out there. Instead of defining it as a Monday to Thursday, you broaden the scope to the full 4-day week and whatever that looks like, and then ask administration to bring it forward and check back with us and say, what more would you like to make a decision on the go forward, and we go from there. I think we're trying to overcomplicate it by saying we have to make sure that every thing is included with this motion, and it's just not possible, especially with what's happening.
Thank you, Trustee Toon. Trustee Burdette, did you want to speak to the motion that you would, or the potential motion?
I'm fine with going the way that Lacey has, Trustee Poitras has pointed us. I think that would get us there too. Yeah.
Okay.
Somewhere along the way, we have to see the pros and cons of how this thing works, right? And that'll get us there as well.
Okay. Trustee Poitras, do you have what you had put down for a motion that you could reread so that Nikki could capture that, please?
Yeah, I put it in the box for her. So this is what I ended up. Oh no, I didn't.
It's like
I only sent. I sent it just privately, just a private message. I'll resend it to everyone. But this is what it says: that administration explore the options of moving students to a 4-day school week to better support staff, student and staff mental health, with the results being presented to the board at the, okay, and I put results being presented to the board at the June 2021 meeting. I meant September though. Like, we want the option, we want those two to be brought back by September, right? I'm gonna send it to everyone in the chat box. Or do we need the results before then so that we can like discuss them over the summer?
We need to allow to have enough time for administration to gather everything. So
right.
This is going to be a lot of work, and they have a lot of stuff going on. So I just want to be conscious of that. So that administration explore the options of moving students to a 4-day school week to better support student and staff mental health, with the results being presented to the board at the June 2021 board meeting.
And unless ever, like if
not June.
Yeah, I don't know, Daryl and Chad and Richard, if that's making you want to throw up a little bit. But yeah, if we're tasking you with showing us what that would look like, the 2 or 3 scenarios that could look like, would you give us an idea of what the timeline, a realistic timeline would be for you to bring like just those scenarios? You don't need any other input. You don't need but I do know that you need to, look into all of it. So what's a realistic timeline?
Daryl? We'll hear from a few more trustees and then I'll report back. But I do think June, we're too busy to have it by the end of June for my opinions. But Trustee Yegas?
Vicky put a motion
Yeah, she did.
that she had so far, and that I like that motion, the way she had put it.
But I thought we had moved away from doing the pros and cons because that was way more work and we were just looking at the options of a 4-day. And if we then needed pros and cons, we were then going to ask for it. So that's why we've moved away from that one. Did you have anything else, Trustee Yegas?
I was just rereading hers, and okay, yeah, she looks at yeah. I think we better highlight the word explore.
Okay. Trustee Toon is next.
I like the motion as stated, just with the September addition, as the chair has stated. I think that's cutting it kind of close, and that way we have ample time. And that way, yeah, hopefully we can meet again in person in September and maybe do the paper sheets on the wall like we've done so many times in the past, and have a good talk through of next steps as a board and chart the course going forward.
Thank you, Trustee Toon. Trustee McKee?
Well, I thought that the first motion that we had from Nikki to everyone, you would explore the possibilities of a 4-day school week, but you would still compare that to what we have currently. And the new one, it says you're not even talking about the current school week, and you're just talking about what the possibilities of the 4-day. So if you say that, are you not considering the 4-day school week now? I mean, the current school week, are we just going to move ahead with the 4-day school week? What about the current
I think sorry, Don, I don't mean to interrupt you there, but I think we need to get the motion on the floor and debate it, because we're just going around in circles right now. So I would really like to just get the motion on the floor, and then you can debate the merits of it afterwards. We just keep talking in circles here. So Trustee Poitras has made motion that administration explore the options of moving students to a 4-day school week to better support student and staff mental health, with the results being presented to the board.
You can put September.
At September, September. So if we could just edit that, September 2021 board meeting. Trustee Poitras, you've made the motion. Would you like to comment on it?
Yeah, so I think this is a great motion moving forward with our exploring what's best for our staff and our students in regards to all aspects of their life, balance, health, everything, mental health. And I think this is something that if we task administration with bringing us back those options, then we can take a look at them, and it'll give us a better idea if this is something that's feasible in our division. And if it is, we can continue with the process. And if it just isn't, then we've done our due diligence and can move on. Just for clarification, John, this is administration. Oh, sorry. Address you only?
Yeah, just you. You're never supposed to address another trustee.
Sorry. So just for clarification, Madam Chair, this is for admin to bring it to us to see if we're going to continue on with exploring moving even towards this type of school week, or if what we have is current best practice. So if it was then decided to take it out to the stakeholders to get their input, it would be offered as an option in comparison to what we currently have, would be my next step understanding.
Thank you, Trustee Poitras. Was there any other questions or comments around the motion? Trustee McKee?
Okay, so with that motion, you're making the assumption that a 4-day school week is going to be better for staff and students than the current situation, because you're just exploring that aspect of it. You're not exploring how good the current situation is. You're not even talking about the current situation. You're just moving toward the 4-day school week. Now, that's fine, but you're not really given the whole situation. It's fair comparison. You're just dealing with the 4-day school week here. And I think you should deal with the current and the 4-day and compare those two directly as such.
So Trustee McKee, when this information is brought back to us in September, it'll be brought back to the board. We will then look at that information and what we are currently in right now. Everybody already knows where we are currently. We're in the, it might just stay status quo. We know what our current school week looks like right now. All we're doing is asking in this motion to please bring us back some options of what a 4-day school week would look like. Then the two will be compared through the board and then brought back out.
Yeah, but will you bring back the current, how well the current situation actually is, or are you just going to slide that to the side and just deal with the 4-day school week? I think you should, if you're going to compare the two, you should bring back the good parts for having for remaining in the current situation versus the changes that you recommend that are best for a 4-day school week. I think you're not giving both sides a fair shake.
Trustee Poitras, would you like to respond to that?
Okay, so John, right now, you're saying let's compare the 4-day, which is an apple, and the 5-day, or the current, which is like another apple. But we don't have this apple yet. So this is what we're asking. This motion says, show us what that looks like. Like bring us the physical on a piece of paper. This is how long the days are. This is how many days you go. So we want to compare the two, but that's the next step. Because right now we have our current situation and what this might be. But we're saying, please bring us what this actually looks like, and then we'll compare them. But that's not till the next step. We can't make a motion to compare the two right now because we don't have two. We only have one and a hypothetical.
Well, for my opinion, you have the two, the apple and the oranges, and you're just going to look at the different varieties of the apples that you have without saying, well, okay, here's the oranges. This is still good, but here's the 4 varieties of the apple. And you're just dwelling on the apples, not with the oranges. That's my concern.
So this is being brought back to a board meeting, Trustee McKee. And so it'll be presented to the public at a public board meeting, both scenarios.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any other questions?
No, I think they're out there. But I mean, if I know our administration, they're going to come back, and I want to hear what they recommend is best for students.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know when this is all said and done. Because I know 4-day school weeks are pretty good for the budget in a lot of cases, but I don't know if they're really good for students and how that works for students. So I'd like to hear from administration what their thoughts are around all of that, because our every student every day. So if it doesn't work out for a handful of students, that's a good enough reason for us to consider not doing it, right? And so that's what I want to see, and I think this will get us.
Thank you, Trustee Burdett. Trustee Long.
Madam Chairwoman, and then once we have the information on a 4-day school week, then we can compare it to information on a shortened school week and move steps from there, move farther.
Yeah. Thank you, Trustee Long. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'm going to call the question. I'll just reread the motion. That administration explore the options of moving students to a 4-day school week to better support student and staff mental health, with the results being presented to the board at the September 2021 board meeting. Any opposed? Passed. Okay, moving on in our agenda. COVID-19 update. Daryl Seguin, Superintendent, will provide an update to the Board of Trustees regarding COVID-19 within the Livingston Range School Division since the second semester. Mr. Seguin.
Thank you very much. While Nikki's pulling up the presentation, just want to start by thanking our staff for the incredible job that they are and have been doing since last March to ensure that student learning, wellness, and safety have been ongoing priorities for everyone during the pandemic. Our custodians, our bus drivers, teachers, support staff, and all the rest of our staff have continued to do a heroic job at this time, and we're grateful for their ongoing efforts. In addition, students, I would say, have been very resilient, flexible, and understanding during these circumstances as well. So the next slide provides a little bit of an overview from one semester to the next. Oh, it didn't display very well. All right, probably because I created it in a Google slide. Let me break it down a little bit for you. So first semester, we had 24 cases from September to January, 3 staff, 21 students. We had a total of 24 cases, 63 staff were impacted, meaning that they needed to isolate because of being a close contact. And 459 students in first semester were identified as close contacts and therefore had to isolate. In second semester, we have had 6 cases actually in the last week or so. So we have a total of 9 cases so far from February 1st to April 19th, involving a couple of staff and 7 students. For an additional, so down at the bottom on the green, so 9 cases, second semester, 23 staff required to isolate, and 183 students. Now, the bar or that chart that's there captures the whole year. So throughout the whole year up until April 19th, we've had 33 cases in total. There's currently 6 active cases. With a little asterisk, I'll say there's 86 staff that have been impacted, requiring to isolate, and 642 students. Now, just for clarity, over on the far right, it says some students and staff were affected by more than 1 case. Therefore, some individuals were counted more than once in the total staff and students affected. So an example I could give you is that, say in a classroom, there were more than 1 student that tested positive. And so even though the number of total cases would only increase by 1, the way that the count goes, or that we're keeping track of this in Livingston Range, is that say it's in a class of 25, so 1 student or 1 individual tests positive, 25 others are required to isolate. However, in that same class, in a 2 or a 3 day period, another student or another individual tests positive. The way the count goes is, again, that second student, when we record the impact, it's also 25 other individuals that would be impacted by it. So hopefully that's not really confusing, but so if we looked at actually the number of staff and students who were required to isolate, at one time throughout this school year, it would be less than those numbers that are there. That's all I'm saying by that chart. And hopefully that's a little more clear. Nikki, can you go to the next slide, please? Just wanted to give you a little update at this stage about some of the changes. And we know that things in this world during a pandemic time don't stay the same for very long. And so some of the newer developments, I guess, and you're aware of them as you watch the news, is that we're seeing in Alberta and across the world more variants of concern. And so, in fact, we've probably reached a point now, I believe, in the last week or so where, those cases that are identified on a daily basis, the majority of them are variants of concern. And so these types of strains spread more easily and can cause more severe illness. So at the beginning, the second bullet there, at the beginning of the 2020-2021 school year, when there were close contacts identified, Alberta Health recommended that our student, staff, that sort of thing, close contacts get tested once during that isolation period. But given the rapidly increasing number of COVID cases around the province and that they're variants of concern, AHS has altered that requirement, and so they request now and strongly encourage that individuals who are identified as a close contact now get tested twice. Once as soon as possible after being identified as a close contact, and then the second time after between that day 10 to day 14 time period. So I've relayed these new changes to our administrators at our last admin council meeting, and I just wanted to keep you aware of some of the ongoing changes. Nikki, the last slide, because I'll just give you a little bit more clarification as you're attending, your school council meetings, as you might be speaking with parents and that sort of thing. These might be some common areas where people would have questions. And so I just wanted to give you a little bit more information. So for graduation ceremonies, right now, we still have a lot of the health restrictions in place. And there was a graduation guidance document on Alberta BizConnect last year. That has been, I've heard it's been removed now, and they are going to, AHS tells me that they will be updating that in April sometime. Now, it's the 20th. I haven't seen a new version yet. So we know that many of our graduation ceremonies and activities usually start in the beginning of May in Livingston Range School Division and continue on right through to the end of June. So schools will need to follow the health restrictions. And schools are working with their graduating class or a grad committee and parents and that sort of thing about what is possible during these times and what may be allowed to occur in early May might be different than something that could take place in the latter part of June. We just don't know. And that's the reality. And that's really unfortunate because there's not a lot of predictability there. But we did hear that our schools made some really personal changes to the way that they were recognizing their graduates last year. And it turned out to be a special experience regardless. It may be not the same as what it was in the past, but it was still special for them. And so schools are working on that. And all I can tell you is, schools will continue to follow the health restrictions that are in place for schools. And we'll be looking to see if there's any updates in the area of a graduation guidance document that would shed any light on what is permissible or not during these times. Extracurricular activities, there was some question around now that, Alberta took a step backwards in that moving back to step one. And I'm sorry, I may be confused by the different phrases that are out there now and different levels, but we moved back to step one, tightened some restrictions. However, for schools, extracurricular activities didn't change. So they are still allowed, but they have to meet the tight restrictions of, no more than 10 participants per coach kind of thing. And obviously keeping distance and as much as possible, and doing those sorts of activities outside is ideal. And our principals have the latest information on that anyway. For bus close contacts, there has been a change recently with Alberta and the rest of the world moving into more cases that are identified as variants of concern. So when a positive individual rode the bus in the past, and we had to identify close contacts, we had to take kind of an approach about 2 rows in front, 2 rows in back, and then the same on the other side of the aisle. Now that variants of concern are something that we're facing, and because they spread more easily, that has been expanded to 3 rows. So 3 rows in front of the positive individual, 3 rows in back, and then 3 rows on the opposite side of the aisle as well. So it's a little bigger impact zone. Clarity around staff close contacts. Can't remember exactly when this change happened, but there is a little bit of leeway around staff being identified as close contacts. Students, we know that when they're in a classroom with their peers and there's a positive case during the school day, the whole class needs to isolate. With staff, there's a little bit of flexibility. If staff can clearly say that they weren't in close contact with students during that class while the infectious individual attended, then they may not be considered a close contact. And so one example of that might be, you know, say a high school biology class, they're writing a test that day. The teacher is purely up at the front of the classroom, and the kids are writing their exam in their desks. If there was a positive case identified in that classroom, the teacher may be able to say with certainty that they weren't within that 6-meter distance. And so in my conversations about contextual situations with AHS, that teacher may not be identified as a close contact. However, as we get to younger and younger grades, of course, you can imagine that remaining distance at a distance would not be as possible. So if we think of, you know, kindergarten, grade 1, 2 classes, they need more assistance from the teacher. And so the staff are in closer proximity to the students. And so generally in those cases, the staff would also be considered a close contact. So those are contextual, and they're on a case-by-case basis. Most of the time, I would say, whenever we've had positive cases in our classrooms, the teacher or the staff are also considered close contacts. However, sometimes they have not been. All right, so that's kind of a quick overview of where we're at. Again, really appreciate all the work that our staff are doing, all the patience and understanding and cooperation of our students. I know everybody's getting tired of the restrictions and wearing masks and everything else, but overall in Livingston Range School Division, to this point in time, we're doing really well compared to other areas of the province. And I have to give thanks as well to the communities, because we know that if there's a larger number of cases in a community, there is a greater likelihood that those individuals will attend school while infectious. And then we start to have the situations where kids are being picked up and classes are isolating, and we need to move online for those classes and coming back and forth. And so, yes, we've had, our share of cases, but compared to many other school divisions around the province, we're doing really well. And I just hope that everybody can kind of keep that going for the next few months here, and we can all take advantage of the vaccinations that are coming and being available, and then we can get back to a more normal school year in the fall. So with that, I'll just stop, and if Trustee Hodges there, Chair, if you're okay, if there's any questions, I'll just open it up.
Perfect. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Seguin? Nope. Thanks very much for the update, Daryl. I appreciate it, and I'm sure communities appreciate just kind of knowing where we stand with the COVID and the update. And it's kind of an ongoing thing. They seem to change criteria here and there, and trying to adapt to something that just keeps changing. So I appreciate the update and future updates. It's really great to know where we stand right now. And also, I'd really like to say thank you to our staff and our students and our parents and the communities. Everyone's just trying to do as best as they can. So that's really good. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to F3, Crow's Nest Pass. Board and administration are looking into a potential opportunity in the Crow's Nest Pass. The Livingston Range School Division's mission is to inspire excellence through meaningful relationships, innovation, and collaboration. In order to live by this mission, the division is always looking for innovative opportunities within our communities to find ways to enhance current and future programming for our students. Chad Kuzik, Associate Superintendent, Curriculum and Innovation, will speak to the potential opportunity for the Livingston Range School Division to acquire property in the Crow's Nest Pass that would definitely enhance current and future programming for Livingston Range School Division students. Mr. Chad Kuzik, would you like to take over? I can't hear you. I don't know if you're talking and I can't see you.
No, just getting used to Zoom, believe it or not. So hopefully you can see that. Can you see the screen there, Lori? Okay. Trustee Lori, Chair Lori. So it's my privilege to have this conversation right now. And the title of this is The Extraordinary Opportunity in the Crow's Nest Pass and what has taken place. So I'll share with the board and the public our work towards this and what's taken place so far and where we're at. So what's happened in September 2020, LRC was made aware that the Travel Alberta Crow's Nest Pass Information Visitor Center would be closed and the property may be available. After a site visit, it revealed there'd be an ideal location, home for a base for our current programs such as LRT Pursuits, FACES, and things that we have going on in a division. We contacted Alberta Education and Alberta Education connected with Alberta Infrastructure seeking additional information on the property. And I'll show you where the property is shortly, but it's approximately 6 kilometers west of Coleman, just off the highway, and it's approximately 4.62 acres. The reason why, or what some of the things that brought this to our attention and made us focus on this potential opportunity, it's an ideal location and it's within the Livingston Range borders. Regarding some of the things we do with outdoor pursuits and our program and that we provide students over the number of years. It's alignment with the Livingston Range School Division's new mission, vision, and core values. It's a direct, powerful impact on the kindergarten grade K-12 students in Southwest Alberta and across the province. And there'll be economic and social environmental benefits to the Crow's Nest Pass area. So based on those comments, we started to take a look at this site, and you can see approximately where it is, and there's Highway 3. And those that aren't familiar with the site or have not visited the site, it kind of looks like this. And yes, usually there's Oz when we see this because it is very beautiful, but it also is very functional and has a great deal of opportunities to us. A lot of the infrastructure that we would require to use is already established in there. There would be some additional work that needs to be done, but as you can see, there's a lot going on in this particular piece of the property that's there. And again, that's some of the, kind of give you a general idea of the area and the building that exists there. That gives us an idea of what this location may do for us. And again, the parking lot and all those things, again, just different pieces and the areas that it's established to be able to provide programming for students was key, and to us even moving forward with any ideas. So with our newfound mission, vision, and core values, we started to take a look at this to see if this is something we may be interested in. And with our LRT pursuits, we kind of looked at how could we use the structure for delivering high quality programming for our students. So the first thing I'll talk about will be FACES, and this is a program in which we've had in Livingston Range for a number of years. A number of students have participated across the province, and particularly that home that FACES has been looking for quite some time. And then I'd like to talk about place-based programming real quick and potentially using the facility in the area for some place-based programming and some of the things that we have already established in the division, but things that we're looking forward to bringing to the students. We're looking at, I'd like to talk about the possibility of an environmental education center. Something that's near and dear to my heart, absolutely. But I think this would allow K-12 to take advantage of this space. Looking at expanding our international language program and looking at how we could facilitate the area for pre-employment. So these are some of the things I'll just walk you through really quickly. So again, I talked about FACES that started in 1999. and it's for grade 9 students across Alberta, across the province. And it's a curriculum-based outdoor adventure education that focuses on personal growth and development. We've had a number of presentations on FACES, a number of things going on with FACES, and we continue to offer that. Just to keep everyone in mind, that FACES has over 450 students in the program each year. And some of the opportunities such as climbing, canoeing, classwork, hiking, and mountaintop experiences will be available at this site in relatively very close proximity. And something to keep in mind as we were looking for that home for FACES, this potentially could be that space for summer use. When I speak of place-based programming, this is part of the core value being place-based, is that we leverage the Rocky Mountains in our communities to offer students mastery learning and making that curriculum relevant to the students and using the outdoor to program. This center could potentially extend our offerings of FACES, but some of the activity that's already taking place, specifically what's happening in the Crow's Nest Pass, and some of the place-based program that's taking place already, and make it a center focal spot for our staff and students and communities to access. We know with the Ski Academy as well, we've been looking at ski instructing and patrolling and training, and due to the proximity of Ski Hill, the past powder keg right there, this might extend this offering for students across the division. And allow not only just area students from the area, but students across the province be able to maybe potentially access some of that type of programming that may be difficult in Nanton or Fort Macleod and those sorts of places. I think this also gives the opportunity to expand our place-based programming and look at experiential winter programming, experiential water programming, environmental stewardship. As I say this, ideas are already starting to generate as we're releasing this to our principals as well, of all the different ideas that could take place in this. So this is just the beginning. The environmental learning piece is also very fascinating, that it gives us that foundation of learning and knowledge to all LRSD students. As I mentioned before, it potentially could offer us opportunity to have a center to provide for K-6 that foundational knowledge and getting outside. And informed about engage in human-natural environment coexistence, which is so critical these days for our students, and that critical literacy piece. High school students could be doing project-based real work supported by professionals at the actual site. We have a place to be able to support that sort of work that could happen. Focus on Indigenous ways of knowing for all students, hands-on experiential learning, and expanding some of the programming that we have offering inside our schools are ready to have a place to be able to resource and to be able to take a large number of students in throughout the year. This would happen K to 12, right? And then for students to connecting to the environment outside and to get outside. The International Language Center, we looking at expansion of that potentially, running an ESL program in addition to our already established international program. A 3-week program where students come to the area, would take full advantage of what the offerings are there, and be able to learn English in the morning, and then potentially participate in some of the activities the site has to offer in the afternoon. And this is exciting, again, to bring to really leverage that site throughout the year for that kind of learning. The pre-employment center is something we're currently working on. In fact, I was in conversation with our virtual school principal recently about some potential offerings of pre-employment certification that potentially we could partner up with some community leaders, community businesses, dual credit, a variety of things to be able to offer students and a place for things to happen, and offering maybe on weekends, maybe on times outside of school hours even, to be able to have a place for this to take place. So the coordination of that will be taking place probably through LRSD Pursuits and the schools that are already working towards this. Potentially they can complete some of their training for the certification virtually, but where possible, attend the center, stay in person at the center, and receive some really specific training as needed there. Again, this would be a pay for fee cost recovery basis for some of these courses, but at the same time, we definitely would provide that opportunity to kids. It would be the enhanced opportunity for kids to get some of these certifications. We look some things just that started, and I know this list has grown 3 times as long already, with or without the center. But ski instructing level 1, ski patrol certification, first aid, backcountry touring, wilderness could be specific to that location. Never mind some of the conversations we would be having with our partners in post-secondary, Lethbridge College, potentially University of Lethbridge, University of Calgary, and so on and so on. So these are things that more to come with this one for sure. But again, this facility could offer that. So again, back to why this particular location and why not somewhere else? Well, first of all, it's direct access to natural resources right there in the backyard. And it has water access through the Crow's Nest boat launch. It's only 750 meters away. Emerald Lake is about 2.6 kilometers away. There's a climb site in which we use for Face of the Rays, about 2.6 kilometers away. And again, that access to the backcountry is in the back door. It's easy to find, easy to access up Highway 3, easy for parent drop-off, pickup, reduces the amount of time students will spend traveling site to site, specifically with Faces, but potentially for other programming if they have a longer stay there for all our students in LRSD. Reduces program costs, it's close to access to emergency and medical services, which is important in our school division for the health and safety of our students. And to be quite honest, it'd be very difficult to find another location that meets this criteria. With that in mind, the process that we're there, and I'm sharing with the board right now and sharing with our public, is we received a great deal of support in this process thus far. MLA, Mr. Roger Reed, provided a letter of support to the Ministers of Education and Infrastructure. We received support from the Municipality of Crow's Nest Pass from the Mayor Painter, provided a letter of support to the same Minister of Infrastructure. Minister Lagrange and the Capital Planning South team were fully supportive to put forward a notice of interest on behalf of Livingston Range School Division and the Ministry of Education, and very much appreciated as we work towards this. So, and Minister Panda of Alberta Infrastructure communicated with Mr. MLA Roger Reed, and in turn, Mr. Reed communicated with our board that the school division be offered the property first at fair market value. Now, the next steps for us is Alberta Infrastructure is currently going through a due diligence process. They're looking at multiple appraisals of the property. They're doing an environmental scan and required paperwork to put together a sales offer. This is an opportunity right now, but not necessarily something that we will follow through with based on some considerations. So once we get that information back, LRSD would determine, what the value of the property is and what improvements will need to be made to the property to provide the current programming, and whether we have sufficient resources available to pay the determined value. So these are all things we will consider as moving forward once we get that information. But we felt as administration and the board felt that it's important to let everyone know where we're at with this discussion. And I have to say, I'm excited at the progress we've made thus far. So at this time, I'll open it up and stop sharing to any questions you may or may not have.
Does anyone have any questions at all? Trustee Toon?
Well, excited that the cat's finally out of the bag and we got some positive news and we can have some public knowledge about this exciting opportunity. I really appreciate all the work administration has done again with everything that's going on and happening for this is such a rare opportunity, and I know you guys have been tireless in your effort to try and do all due diligence on this. My question would be, do you have any idea on time frame? Have they given any indication on what kind of schedule it would be before they would get you all that information so a decision could be made?
I wish I could give you an update on that, Mr. Toon, but at this particular point in time, it's undetermined as I go through the process, and it's a wait and see at this time. I am hopeful it'll be sooner than later, though.
Perfect, thanks. Trustee Yeagas?
I think, okay, Thank you. I was just, thank you very much for that presentation. It's really great. Great to see that this area is being put to some use by for our students, and shows a lot of promise. Is it possible to use part of this or some of the things out of this to show to our school councils when we meet? I have a meeting tomorrow night, and it'll be great. I mean, even showing them where it's at or things like that. Is there a proprietary on this PowerPoint?
Well, Trustee Yegas, that's the first time I've ever been asked if my stuff is proprietary. Absolutely not. Please share, get the word out. And I guess my reminder is that these are just the starts. There's nothing. This is exploratory. We're working down this process, and like I said, we'll consider it once we have all the information. But I think it's exciting, and I think that these are ideas that we have right now, but they will evolve. They will change. We'll continue down and allow that to happen, and be excited that for it to happen. So yeah, we'll be opening it up. I'll be talking to principals here right away, especially those in the Crow's Pass, and you're more than welcome to leverage that PowerPoint.
I definitely think we can make this part of a key message going out of part of our board meeting today too, Clara. Awesome, everybody. Is there any more questions at all for Chad? Nope, seeing none. I'm just going to call a 5-minute bio break. I know we're running about a half hour or 20 minutes behind, but we'll just call a quick bio break, and then we're on to our early learning presentation. So everybody just take 5 minutes and come right back.
That was part of the presentation, that we're waiting on that. And
take that bonnet bounce is great.
yeah, sooner than later would be better. But as of right now, we don't have a price tag.
Yeah, I'm certainly for it. So that's good. I mean, I hope it goes through. You guys have done a lot of work on, all the angles on that. So yeah, that's good. But thank you for that as well.
Thank you, Trustee McKee. And it has been, as I said before, it's been, I love my job today. And I love this work.
Evident,
yeah,
this work. That's good.
This work has been very enjoyable so far.
That's good. That's good. Okay. Sandy, how are things going?
Good afternoon. I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good. So you're getting around and making the tours and traveling here and there and all over, or were you working at home quite a bit?
I have been a few days a week, and then coming into the office a couple days a week as well. Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think everybody's back, so I'm just going to call us back to order at 2:57. So we're moving on to F4, Sandy Harrower. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to mutilate that.
No, that's
Early
okay.
learning supervisor, learning coach will provide the board with an update of the work being accomplished through the division. Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me join you today. I really appreciate your time. And so I just wanted to provide a little bit of an update on some of the things that have been happening this year. And I'm going to quickly just update you on sort of what falls under my portfolio, an update on the Canyon Creek Early Learning Center, some new early learning programs, some funding updates and enrollment and projections, and our kindergarten collaborative meetings, and then provide some time for questions. So I'm coming to the end of my first year here at Livingston Range School Division, And it's been a very exciting year being the early learning supervisor and the learning coach. And so, as the early learning supervisor, I've had the opportunity to support early childhood services across the division, which includes programming for 3 and 4-year-olds and kindergarten children. And I coordinate, administer, and support the delivery of programs for our children accessing program unit funding. And I also maintain our budgets for early learning and PUF. I also support the design and implementation of divisional early learning practices. For example, earlier this year, we released early learning guidelines for all of our teachers and support staff in response to the COVID pandemic outlines from Alberta Health Services, so that we could continue to support play-rich learning opportunities while keeping our environment safe for our children. I liaise quite often with Alberta Education, as well as other school boards and community agencies, and I supervise our divisional speech and language pathologists. I also support the organization of our developmental spring check-ins, and those are actually starting next week across our division. And this is where our schools are connecting with all of our incoming kindergarten or early learning children. And so this year, again, that is looking different across the division. Some sites will be doing in-person, some are doing virtual, some are doing some small group meetings. But regardless of the delivery that they are doing, we are all connecting with those new families and welcoming them to LRSD. We also facilitate the use of our early years evaluation teacher assessment tool. And so that's something that kindergarten teachers utilize in the fall and again in the spring. And we have been able to maintain our kindergarten collaborative meetings for this year. We have tried to do 4 meetings in the past. We were able to do 2 this year, and we look forward to hopefully offering more of those again next year. And then I also organize and provide professional development opportunities, whether that's through the delivery of Hannon, or we have teamed up with the Building Brains partnership, and we were able to offer a series for our educational assistants earlier in the new year. As the learning coach, my role shifted a little bit this year, and it really focused on supporting the startup and success of our Pursuits virtual school. And so one of the main things that I had the privilege of supporting along with Tara Tana, the principal, was supporting a really responsive model for our school through the collaborative response lens. Tara and I were able to connect with Jigsaw Learning and also did a pre-recorded session for their upcoming learning symposium on April 26th that was entitled Collaboration and Improvement in a Virtual Learning Environment. We also did a podcast for Jigsaw Learning that was called Putting the Pieces Together, the Pursuits of Online Learning, where we were able to share the work and the model that we have supported our virtual school with. Other things that I've been able to do with our virtual school is really supporting our families and staff in connecting with some of the resources available within the community and within our division. I also have provided support through early literacy development, specifically for the grade 1-2 teachers, and how we can continue to provide rich literacy opportunities for our children in an online environment. I also had the opportunity to work with SAPDC in a joint collaboration where we focused on supporting early literacy practices. It was a 2-part series that we offered to our colony teachers and staff earlier this year. And then within both of my roles, I am part of our learning services team and have the opportunity to collaborate with all of our team members and be part of our monthly meetings and co-facilitate and plan our learning support teacher meetings throughout the year. We are also working on developing and providing feedback on a new individualized student plan program that we'll be launching hopefully for next year, and really looking at the purpose of an individualized program plan and how a student plan can be accessible for all students. So as we look at launching new technology, this is a project that we are also undertaking. So just as a bit of an update, I'm sure many of you are familiar with the Canyon Creek Early Learning Center in Pincher Creek. It was completed last summer and it opened in July 2020. And LRSD continued to be the license holder for this program and up until April 1st. This allowed us to continue supporting parents with accessing the $25 a day daycare grant. And now, just an update for you is the town of Pincher Creek now holds a license agreement for this program. And all the materials that were purchased through the grant will continue to support the families that are accessing the Canyon Creek Early Learning Center. I'm also very excited to let you know that we are opening 2 new early learning programs at Horace Allen School and AB Daly School for next year. These 2 programs will be piloted for the following school year and will offer programming supports for our 3 and 4-year-old children. This year at Horace Allen, we did have the opportunity to provide supports for our children accessing mild, moderate, or program unit funding supports at the school. And it was a decision we made in response to COVID restrictions. We, due to the ever-changing COVID guidelines, we were not able to have our staff in multiple locations out in the Crow's Nest Pass. So that is why we initially brought the children into the school to provide support. But we're really excited with the opportunity to extend our program design for next year, opening up the program registrations for all of our 3 and 4-year-old children in the community. We believe this will create a dynamic and diverse group of learners within the school and really enhance learning opportunities for all children. We learned from our experiences this year that not only did we increase our time with our children who were accessing services, but the school was also to formulate earlier and more meaningful relationships with families that will be instrumental as those children begin their elementary journey with the school. This year in Nanton, we didn't have any children accessing mild, moderate, or PUF supports, but in conversations with the school administration, we learned that there were a lot of young children in the community. However, they were not necessarily accessing early childhood services or supports in the community. In most cases, some were actually accessing supports in a neighboring division. So we thought this is a great place as well for us to continue to consider the possibility of an early learning program. To help us determine the need for these programs, we did a community survey and the feedback was very overwhelmingly positive. And so we are now at a place where we are accepting registrations at both of those programs and are offering up to a 4-day morning program, Monday to Thursday, at both locations. And we're closely monitoring the possibility of offering afternoon programs there as well. So currently we are ordering furniture and materials for these locations next week. And we have posted positions for early learning educators at both of these sites. Those just went live today. Another change is at Canyon School. So currently Canyon has the Canyon Cubs preschool program, which is a licensed preschool program. And next year they will be shifting as well to an early learning program, as this just allows us to have consistency across the division, and it allows us to have all early learning programs across the division. In the past, the benefit of being a licensed program was that families could access a subsidy, but we learned that we didn't have any families accessing that subsidy anymore. So we felt this was a great time for us to move over to an early learning program there as well. They will continue to offer a 4-day morning or afternoon program in relation to the community needs as well. So as I mentioned earlier, our programs at Horace Allen and AB Daly are being piloted for next year, and they're designed for 3 and 4-year-olds. These are really going to focus on delivering developmentally appropriate play opportunities for children in a Reggio-inspired environment, which really encourages the child to see themselves as a strong, capable learner with an innate curiosity to understand their world. To enter our program, children do need to be 3 years of age as a minimum by December 31st of the current school year. And we will continue to offer supports and services within these programs for children needing access to mild to moderate or PUF funding. Families do have the opportunity to register for 2 or 4 days a week in the morning or the afternoon, depending on the program location. And as I mentioned, as we open up those afternoon programs, our fees are consistent across the division and are in alignment with our partner school divisions. We also look forward to continuing to support our children accessing mild to moderate or PUF funding supports in Fort Macleod, Staveley, and Claresholm for the following year. Our AP and LSTs from WA Day and West Meadow will continue to oversee the programming and educational assistance for our children within their community play school environments. And our LST at Staveley Elementary will oversee programming supports for our children within the Staveley Elementary School in conjunction with our kindergarten program. At this time, we don't have any children in Granham or Livingston that are accessing any additional supports and services. I know Anthony talked to you a little bit earlier about the budget, but I just wanted to provide you a few little updates here in that children in pre-kindergarten and kindergarten will continue to have access to PUF or program unit funding. The age of eligibility for this funding is 2 years, 8 months to 4 years, 8 months as of September 1st. And children to access this level of funding do need a diagnosis of a severe delay or disability. One of the changes that is new to program unit funding is the hours of service that we need to provide to children. In the past, we have had to offer either 400 or 800 hours of program service. And this year, they have really looked at what is developmentally appropriate in terms of a child's age and the hours that would make sense in terms for them to attend. So the chart that is there reflects those new hours. Our allocations in terms of program unit funding remain quite similar to what we've had this year. And so I also just want to take a moment to thank the Board of Trustees for your support and your submission request for us to be held harmless this year in terms of our PUF budget. We were anticipating possibly losing just over $100,000 from this next year budget. And we are very thankful and appreciative for your support in ensuring that didn't happen this year. In terms of kindergarten, they have made a few changes there as well, in that the government this year is offering the specialized learning support for kindergarten a severe funding category. And this has been available in the past. It was the SLS grant covered K to 12, but they have separated out kindergarten specifically for next year. They've also created a new area in the coding criteria, which is a code 48, which is children who have a moderate language delay. And this is attainable for any child in our 3-4-year-old programs or kindergarten. So this is a slight increase overall for our kindergartens in terms of funding. Just to give you a bit of a context and some of the trends over time and the number of children that have accessed program unit funding services, you can see that we have been fairly consistent in the number of children accessing PUF over the last few years. This year, we did see a slight decline in the number of children. We had 32 children accessing program unit funding, and we feel that was, due to COVID and families perhaps not being comfortable at this time having their child in a program. And we are anticipating a slight increase for next year. These were based on projections we had to provide in January. I also think that there is a strong possibility that this number could be higher with the opening of our early learning programs and as we have more children coming back as they feel comfortable into our schools and programs. So I feel this is a very, very valid projection, but I think it could potentially be higher. I just also wanted to give you an overview of where our program unit funded children are located and show you some of the balance. So our highest areas are currently at WA Day School, Horace Allen School, and Canyon School. And I've given you the number of children on the side there that are located at each location. And then, as I mentioned, Livingston and Granham at this time do not have any students accessing program unit funding supports at their school. In terms of projections for our early learning program specifically first, we are expecting at least 25 children to participate in our early learning program at AB Daly School and approximately 30 children at our program at Horace Allen School and also at Canyon Elementary. And as I already mentioned, we're anticipating about 36 children across the system accessing program unit funding services. And we have provided some of those initial number breakdowns for you to see there as well. I also mentioned earlier that we were able to maintain our kindergarten collaborative meetings this year. We held one in February, and it was a collaborative session with our FNMI coordinators where we collaborated with the Building Brains Together team, and we really focused on the Indigenous games and the importance of play, not only in early learning, but up to grade 12. We also talked about the importance of building executive functioning skills. And it was just incredibly powerful to bring those kindergarten teachers together with the coordinators and just talk about these experiences as a K-12 opportunity and discuss the possibilities together. We did send out resource kits and copies of the games ahead of times. And it's been really exciting to see how, you know, the kindergarten teacher and the success coordinators have come together and to support this within their schools. And then coming up here in May, our kindergarten teachers are looking forward to having a session with Dr. Robin Gibb from the University of Lethbridge, who's going to meet with us to talk about some of our early literacy practices. She's been away from the university this year writing a new book, really focused on reading and reading strategies. So we're very excited to be welcoming her. And one of the things we're going to be looking at is creating a common understanding and continuum, or looking at what are our expectations as a kindergarten team as a whole for reading and writing and early literacy practices across the division. So just before I get to any questions, I just wanted to thank you again for all of your support with early learning. It has been a different year, but we've really accomplished a lot, and there's a lot of exciting things that I believe are happening coming forward. And I just want to say that I am so proud of the work our youngest learners have been doing. Their resilience is truly inspiring and amazing. And also the work that our teachers, staff, and families have done this year. And I'm just so excited for what next year will bring. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry, thank you so much, Sandy, for that presentation. It's great to always see everything going on in the school division, and to you, all you and your team too. You guys do an amazing job. Thank you. Any questions at all for Sandy? Trustee McKee?
Yes, I'm a great supporter of the early childhood services. I think what you do is just excellent. You go around and, I mean, you're kind of going, you know, out to assess children, and if they have problems, you know, you give them support, you know, like before they get to school. And it's like anything, the sooner that you can, you know, intervene in helping a child out, the better it is. So big supporter of what you do. My question is about Granum. I couldn't quite ascertain whether Granum doesn't have any younger children who would need the program, or they don't have a program set up there yet. Could you just clarify that for me, please?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for your kind remarks. And at this time, the last 2 years, we haven't had any children in the Granum area. It could be that they're going to other communities for supports and services. I'm not 100% positive if there is a play school right within Granum. I guess to give it a context, our kindergarten numbers in Granum are also quite low. We have about 6 children anticipated to be in kindergarten next year. So it might be just the demographics of the area. I'm not completely sure, but obviously if they were out there, we would do what we can to provide the supports and services.
We have Nick Beer here, so I see he put his hand up, so I think he wants to jump in on the question too.
Well, I'll just clarify. We do have low numbers. We haven't had any students the last couple of years who needed program unit funding. Before that, we have had them, but it's been 1 or maybe 2 a year, typically only 1. Traditionally, they've accessed that funding as far as play school out of Learn a Lot Play School in Claresholm. just because we haven't been running a play school here. It was brought up at our last parent council as to whether or not that's something we wanted to look into doing again. It seems that there's some interest in a play school again for families here, so we've started preliminary talk on that. But last time they ran it, there just weren't enough kids coming, and so it wasn't worth it, so they stopped running it. So we're in the process of looking into whether that's viable again, but just with our low numbers, in the past it hasn't been worth it, or it works for a bit and then it kind of fizzles out. So that's kind of where we are at.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Nick. Any other questions at all for Sandy? Thank you so much, Sandy, for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time to update the board.
Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
You too. Thanks. Bye. All right, moving on to F5, our Hutterite Colonies. Nick Beer, Colony School Principal, will provide the Board of Trustees with an update of the colonies in the Livingston Range School Division. Welcome, Nick.
Thanks. It's nice to be here. I thought maybe because I answered that question, I could just skip the rest of the presentation and be let off the hook.
No.
I'm going to try to share my screen. I'm more familiar with Google Classrooms than I am with Zoom. Do I have permission to share my screen, Lori?
Yeah, you should be able to.
Okay. Okay, so when speaking of colony schools, this has been a year of learning for me. This is my first year as principal of colony schools, and to say that it's not what I expected would be an understatement. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what colony schools look like from my perspective and some of our statistical data from colony schools. I know you've seen lots of this before, so I'll kind of go through that quickly. And more than that, one thing that shocked me most about colony schools, which I guess in hindsight it shouldn't, is just the people side of it, getting to know the people. And they're not as different from myself or my kids as I was expecting. And so I want to share some of that with you too. I don't know if any of you have gone through the presentation or have had access to it, but I want to show some pictures at the end and just kind of explain what's going on there. And that's really been a cool learning for me, has been the interesting things that are happening in these colony buildings and what that looks like. And they're all so very different. There is some commonality between them, but each one is unique. And the more I'm out there visiting, and COVID kind of put a hamper on my visits, so I haven't been out to them as much as I was hoping to at the start of the year. But it is cool to see the things that's going on. Just yesterday, I was out at colonies in the south, and I got a tour of the greenhouse at Greenwood Colony and got a huge long cucumber, and it was they're proud of what they're doing, and it's interesting to see them share that with you, both the adults and the kids. So that was the German teacher showing me around, but the kids were super excited to walk me over and who was going to be able to be the volunteer to walk me over to the greenhouse. That is one other thing. It's easy to get lost on a colony as well. So our vision is to grow through recognition, support, and quality learning opportunities. And our mission encourages students to become excited about learning while fostering respectful, responsible, and compassionate colony citizens. One thing I have found is they're a very respectful group. Teachers have told me multiple times that they want me to stick around because the class is quietest when I'm there. And then I leave and they've got 18 questions that they wouldn't ask when I was there. So one teacher actually texted me after and said when I left, I'd been at the colony about an hour. I was helping with some of the learning activities and just kind of trying to get to know the kids. And the kid said after I left, oh, you have to tell him he can't stay so long next time. That is way too long to be on my best behavior. So the respectful thing definitely comes in. Here's a map of the colonies. In the last couple of days, I've put on, 400 kilometers driving to different colonies. I visited 4 colonies on Friday collecting surveys, and then I visited 6 more yesterday. I don't like doing that many in a day, but I was collecting surveys because it just rushes my visits. I can only be there for 20 to 30 minutes, and then I gotta move on. They're each different. None of them are the same. I would say they're a little more traditional than what you're used to in a public school setting. Usually 1 or 2 rooms. We are seeing some technology sneak into some of the colonies, but it's slow, and I'll show some of that later either. They're very spread out. We go as far north as between Staveley and Nanton. One of our colonies is not even in the MDA Willow Creek. It's actually in the county of Vulcan. I go down as far as near Waterton and as far west as just north of Lumbrick. So it's a lot of driving. My car was very dirty when I got home yesterday in all the mud. The colony teachers, one of the people they work closely with on the colony is the German teacher. They're kind of my contact too. I do have contact with the ministers, but I don't speak with them nearly as often. Mostly it's with the German teachers. It's good to get to know them, one, because you get free food, and two, because they're really your contact with the family. And if you have a good relationship with them, then they share that with the family. And so that's important for our teachers that are on the colonies as well, is to have that relationship with the German teacher. We have had a little bit of turnover this year too. We've had 3 German teachers retire, and so we have 3 new German teachers in our colonies. This is what our colony numbers look like going this year. And so there are 2 types of colonies. There are Lair-like colonies. They're a little bit more conservative, a little bit more traditional. And then there's the Darius-like colonies, and they're still conservative, but not as much. A couple of the Lair-like colonies, they don't even have grass. It's mostly gravel. A couple of them don't have playgrounds. Very little technology used there. So they're a little bit more conservative than the Darius-like colonies. Altogether, we have 235 students and 13 teachers. And then Randy and I are each half-time administrator too for the colony. So we have 14 total teachers if you include the administration. And we have almost 10 full-time educationalists. We've tried to set it up this year so that schools that have 15 or more have at least support some of the time. Schools that have less than 15, the teacher is on their own. And if they have 20 or more, we have a full-time person with the teacher. And there are a couple of schools that have some significant needs that are different than what you would expect on a colony, some students with different needs. And so Greenwood Colony, even though they have 18 students, actually has a full-time EA and another 0.4 EA. And Livingston Colony, because they have some significant needs as well, and they have high numbers. So they've got a full-time EA and then another full-time EA who works specifically with a couple of students there. So that's what our students and staffing looks like. Waterton and UELM are our smallest colonies at 9. Waterton's actually going to go down to 8 next year, and UELM's going to climb up to 11. So. And our biggest colony is Livingston, although I think next year Willow Creek will be bigger than Livingston. Livingston's lost a few, and Willow Creek is picking a few up. This is old data, but I'll share it with you anyway. This is from last year, because not last year, the year before, because we couldn't do our CAT tests or our PAT tests at the end of last year because there was no school. So it's a bit of older data, but 85% of our colony students are on the Canadian Achievement Test are in that normal range, which is pretty remarkable considering they're coming into school without any kindergarten, without knowing any English. And by the time they get to grade 3, most of them are caught up, or maybe not completely caught up as what you would consider an average student, but they're considered average as far as the Canadian Achievement Test. So they, for the most part, do pretty well in both numeracy and literacy. I would say a little bit stronger in numeracy because they don't have the ELL component there. We're also doing Fontes and Pinnell benchmark assessments. That's a reading assessment. It goes from letter A to letter Z, and there's an instructional level and also an independent level, and so the students are measured at the beginning and end of the year to show growth in that. We also missed out on some of those assessments at the end of last year as well, but we do have those from the beginning of this year, and we use that for their ELL benchmarks too. So if we're audited, that's part of the portfolio that shows that where they're at as far as their learning compared to where they should be. One thing that we're doing to help focus on literacy, Randy and I are trying to find ways to create programming for that 15% that are not meeting what we would consider normal reading and numeracy. So we've been working with Sandy and Kevin and Trisha from SAPDC to do more project-based literacy and numeracy instruction. We're focused on literacy right now. And the goal there is that if we can get more small group project-based instruction, it frees up a bit of time to work more one-on-one or in even smaller groups with those students who really need that targeted intervention. It's hard to get extra help on the colonies. Some of these teachers have students with high needs and they're on their own. They're not high enough needs that they would qualify for an EA to assist them, but they're not learning at the, I hate the word normal, but I'll use it here anyway, the normal speed that you would expect. And so we're trying to move away from some of that traditional teaching and infuse more project-based, more small group stuff into the practices of teachers on the colonies. In general, I have been pretty impressed with what I've seen as far as instruction on the colonies as well. So that's a bonus as well. The picture here on the right, this is from a Greenwood student. So from Greenwood Colony, they wrote letters to the editor, and one of them was chosen to be published in the Lethbridge Herald. So this is an example of some of the writing success that we're seeing on the colony. And so it's a short letter, and whether you agree or not with her opinion is not really the point, but the fact that she was able to get this published in a local newspaper, and the look on her face when she was reading it out, I happened to be there the day that she got to read it out to her classmates from the paper was pretty cool. A little bit of a success moving forward, and this was started by Wes, but he's not here, so I'm taking all of the credit. We're starting to see more colony students interested in grade 9 to 12 education. Last year, we had 2 students who were doing it. Both of those students, I think one of those students finished, and then the other one continued on this year. And we had 3 other students who have picked up courses and are enrolled in them as well. I would say 3 of these students are being very successful, and they're completing courses and they're getting good marks, and they're on pace, or one is actually ahead of the pace we were expecting. There are 2 of them that I'm not sure how committed they actually are and how far they're going to get before we lose them, but we're trying to get them as many courses and as many credits as we can before that point. Next year, we're not really sure. There are a couple of girls who are kind of non-committal, but we're hoping there will be 3 for sure that are joining us next year, and could be as many as 5 that will be taking courses at the grade 10 level. So if that's the case, we could have 10 colony students at 3 different colonies taking high school courses. This third colony is the one at the bottom. They were pretty intent on starting one girl with programming, but then she ended up having some health issues and ended up in the hospital and having surgery. So they've kind of held off on that for now. So we're hoping that next year they'll be ready to explore as well. And that would be the third colony. So right now we have 2 colonies with high school students, and that would be the third school. Randy is the one who's overseeing all of that high school education. He's the teacher overseeing all of their courses and grading their courses. And then there's one colony that we can get them online. And so some of them can take courses online through our LRSD pursuits as well. So that's high school education for the colonies. The one boy, he's hoping to become a mechanic when he finishes. A welder when he finishes. So he's hoping that once he's done his grade 12, he can go to trade school and become a journeyman welder, which benefits the colony as well, because they don't have to have a journeyman come and inspect anything because they've got one in-house. So what's going on? One thing that kind of surprised me coming in was the amount of tech being used in some schools. And so the picture on the left, that is our robotics kit, which is a portable robotics kit. It comes with a couple of laptops and some Lego. And so these kids are building robots, and then they follow that black line on the floor and they race down based on the program that the kids set. If they program it correctly, they race to the end, and then they had little races out of it. The boy at the top, that's from our 3D printer. So it's hooked up to laptops as well. So he designed on the program a silo. So that's his silo. And then he printed the silo out. Another boy was also printing a wolf. We were having some issues with it being a little bit small. So its pieces were almost too small and it broke on us. We had to adapt it a couple of times. And both Randy and I have been out to kind of support in the tech to troubleshoot when things are going well. One of the issues we have with the tech at a couple of colonies is they're allowed the computers and the robots and the 3D printer, but they're not allowed to use internet or Wi-Fi. So we have to run wires and plug it in. Whereas at Granham School, the kids can air print to the 3D printer, and they use online programs to program their robots. So we had to have Curtis and the tech team installing some programs to make sure we had the right stuff on the hardware, because you can't access online programming at a couple of schools. This video is poor quality. It was sent to me from the teacher's phone, so I hope you can kind of see what's going on. But this is a picture of the final race between the two remaining robots at the colony. So that's some examples of the tech that's happening at the colony there. The colony students really enjoy artistic pursuits, and there's actually a couple of colony artwork projects that are hanging at central office and the GR Davis building as well, from the competition that they've entered. So here's some of the examples of some of the artwork that I've been able to collect. I was at Colony on Friday, and they had divided a picture into 16 different squares, and each kid drew their square, not knowing what the other kids were drawing, and then they put it together, and it turned into this horse. I wasn't able to take a picture. They asked me not to take a picture of it, so I respected that, but they had these 16 pictures kind of put together to make a horse. So I've been impressed with the artistic abilities. And I appreciate going into the schools where there's art posted, because it's so much more colorful, and it's nice to see that in the buildings. And I'm surprised at how interested they are in these artistic endeavors. Lots of pictures of horses too, I noticed that. Lots of horses and tractors. And just general fun. So we have a goofy picture on the right with the fake noses. The top is 100 Day of School, so they're celebrating with their 100-day celebration. And then the bottom there is carving pumpkins for Halloween. You will see that there's not any of the scary monster faces that you might see on the street in Halloween, but they're still engaged in the painting of the pumpkins or the carving of the pumpkins in their own unique way. And that's all I have for colony education. I will reiterate, it's been a year of growth for me. Randy and I have some things we want to change moving into next year, to try to make sure we schedule to be out to the colonies a little more often. Our goal was to be at every colony every month this year. COVID kind of wreaked havoc on that. A couple of colonies I was intending on visiting actually ended up shut down, so I wasn't able to visit at certain times. As it stands, we've been to each colony about 5 or 6 times, so we're still doing okay, but not as much as we'd hoped. And Randy and I have kind of split the colony visits. So I've been to every colony. Randy's been to most of them. I don't think he's been to Waterton yet, but he's been to most of the rest of them. And so we're kind of alternating. So both of us are heading out to colonies based on need. So Randy's visited the colonies that have high school students a little bit more, because he's facilitating the high school there. He's also been to the north colonies a little bit more than the south ones, because geographically he lives that way. And I've been the south ones and the west ones more than the north ones. But that's one of our goals next year, is to just be in these buildings more often, spend a little more time with the kids, get to know the teachers a little better. We've made strides in that regard this year, but I think some growth can be made there. And then to build on what we did this year with the project-based learning, transition that a little bit more into numeracy and literacy. Our focus this year was literacy. Any questions? Or Lori, is there no time for questions?
If there's any just sort of quick questions, if anybody had, I can't see everybody, so I'm not, oh, there we go. Does anybody have any questions for Nick at all? Trustee Toon?
There's always time for questions. No. Want to thank you, Nick, for sending the presentation out before I was able to look through it. And just as I scrolled down to the bottom, seeing the pictures of the students just got me right in the heart, because we've missed all our school visits this year, but for me, especially the colony visits, because we don't get to see those students on a regular basis in our communities. Like a lot of our other schools. So I know all the trustees are looking forward to redoing our colony visits once it's safe to do so. But appreciate all the work that you do. It's amazing to see the continuation of all the awesome things that on the colonies.
Very much so. I miss reading the books with the kids and going in. They always, like you said, are always smiling and they're so happy to see you. And so yeah, I miss all that too. But thank you so much, Nick, for taking time out of your day today and presenting us with the update of what's been going on. It's always great to have that.
No problem. It was a pleasure. That is one thing I will add too. They love their stories. Like they have a story for me when I go, and it's usually something that I've never seen before and stumble over as I try to read it. But thank you very much for having me. If you have any questions, feel free to get in touch as well, and I'll do my best to answer any questions you have.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
See you.
All right, moving on to F6. Mike Brassa, on behalf of Fort Macleod Volleyball Club Board, will present the recreational facility they are planning on building in Fort Macleod. The Fort Macleod Volleyball Club Board feels that this project will be important not only to the youth of Fort Macleod, but for the youth throughout the Livingston Range School Division. So I see we have Chelsea Wolf and Mike Brassa joining us. So go ahead if you would like and present to us. We can see your screen. I'm not sure if you, but I can't hear you. You're muted still. Now try. Still can't hear you, Chelsea. Technology, don't you just love it? Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening, but we have no sound at all. I don't know if you want to try and go exit out and come back in, or
Mike or Chelsea, if you go to the mute at the bottom left-hand side, there's a tiny little arrow beside it. If you click on that arrow, it'll say select a microphone. You can try, there's usually one or two options. You can select one or the other and give that a try.
Chelsea, if you can't get that to work, you could have Mike or you join the meeting on your phone and not use your camera and just use your phone connection for the microphone and use your computer connection for us seeing the screen is another way you could try doing it.
Okay, try ahead, go ahead. Do you want to try leaving the meeting and coming back? Sometimes that does help. While we're just waiting for them to join as a delegation of the board, they'll have their presentation and then we can ask some clarifying questions. And then as a board, we will discuss and then communicate to the delegation in writing as soon as possible after our board meeting. Hey, I think we can hear you now.
Hello.
Hi, there we go.
Okay, I don't know what happened there, but so do you still see my screen or do I need to go back through that process of sharing screen?
Yeah, go share your screen again.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes it's just a glitch. You just got to go out and come back in. I don't know why. We can see your screen.
All right, can you see that?
You betcha.
Okay.
And you can hear us. Wow.
Yes.
Yay!
So Chelsea will be doing the presentation and I'll be fielding any questions.
That's his contribution here today. All right, so we are president and vice president of the Fort Macleod Volleyball Club, and we would like to share a little bit about our committee and what we do in the community, and then share the facility that we hope to be building in Fort Macleod. So the Fort Macleod Volleyball Club, 37 years of contributing to the community. The first group that was involved was the Co-ed League. It has been operating since 1984. Last year we had 16 teams, which is about 150. Sorry, in 2019. He's reminding me that we had COVID. That was a thing. So we had, which is about 150 athletes, which is quite phenomenal for our size of town. The league, we have family teams, business teams, and friend teams. They range in all ages, or in ages from 16 to 60, and all ability levels are welcome. We now operate out of the newly expanded gym that the FMCIA had helped build on WA Day. And in partnership with LRSD, we were able to provide an exceptional athletic opportunity in our community. The STARS is an annual event to fundraise for the STARS. I'm trying to think the acronym. Shock, Trauma, and Air Rescue Service. This tournament has increased in participation every year, and in the past several years, we have brought over 400 athletes to our community. They come from BC, Saskatchewan, and Northern Alberta to be part of this event. This event is held at the arena, and thanks to our partnership with the town, this event not only raises funds for STARS, but also contributes to the many service groups in town. It takes hundreds of volunteers to make this event happen. Some people volunteer individually, but many volunteer as a group, and we make monetary contributions to them for their service, such as the Lions, the FMCIA, the Walsh rugby teams, the Walsh Sports Council, the Red Hatters, the Citizens on Patrol, etc. The Alumni is an annual event that supports the volleyball program at Walsh. The purpose of this event is to gather those who have previously played for Walsh to raise funds to support those who currently play for Walsh. The last tournament brought over 100 athletes and their families into our community. We provide an opportunity not only for them to play, but for others to practice scorekeeping and to practice their refereeing, as well as friendship forming for all of those who have played at Walsh, no matter what year. The tournament makes a donation to the school to lower the volleyball fees collectively, but also provides an opportunity to lower individual fees calculated through their time spent scorekeeping and refereeing. The youth club. Is it loud? No. The focus on youth youth development started with the youth volleyball camps in 2017. This is a week-long event, the last week of summer, when the junior high athletes could get intensive training just before the season started. It got so popular that the last year we had a waiting list to get in, and a neighboring community sent their entire team to get trained by our local coaches. Then in 2019, a couple of parents approached us with the idea of setting up a youth club. This was also very successful, and we were able to take youth players to several tournaments at about 1/5 of the cost of other clubs in Southern Alberta. We plan to host our own tournament in which 14 teams were enrolled, but we had to cancel as the world shut down only 2 days before that event. Despite that setback, we are excited to get the program up and running again as soon as we can. So why the focus on volleyball? We have a strong foundation in Fort Macleod. Fort Macleod has a long history of excellent coaches. There are so many people in our community that have had positive athletic experiences, and now they want to share those with others. We also have years and years of experience in running events that benefit the athletes and the community as a whole. We have amazing people here. Every one of the organizations mentioned before started with 1 or 2 people having an idea, and then with individual and community support, they were able to expand on that into what we enjoy today. Also, as I mentioned earlier, the number of volunteers needed to run STARS. Well, we need volunteers to run all of these events and programs, and we have never been left hanging. We truly have amazing people here. Cost effective. All you need to play volleyball is a pair of shoes and maybe knee pads. Multiple members of the same family can feasibly play this sport. And due to our partnership with the town and the LRSD, we have run all of these programs in the black with money left over to contribute back into these partnerships, and continues to grow. We took a 2-year hiatus from volleyball during the modernizations of the schools. Our programs all came back stronger. We are confident that the same thing will happen after COVID, but we are bursting at the seams. STARS is limited in its participation due to the size of the banquet hall. The co-ed league and youth programs are limited by the amount of gym time they get. So here we are to propose a facility of our own. This is a volleyball first multi-use facility. Another angle straight from the front. We're not having feedback from everybody. Side view, parking lot view. And here's the exciting one, the floor plan on the inside. So with a 4-court gym, we're looking at about double the size of FP Walsh's gym. We have approximately 1,000 people seating capacity for a banquet. There will be multiple rows of bleachers there. You can see change rooms, an exceptionally large kitchen, which will be able to host lots of different functions outside of school, but mostly focusing on school and the athletic programs here. Yes, the storage facility there would be able to have the tables and chairs so that they can be put away during sport events. We are proposing this as a volleyball first facility, but since we've been putting these plans around, we've had a lot of requests to include basketball as well. So that's definitely in our minds and something that we are thinking about and working towards. This is also an excellent place to host grads as well, as there's always been a concern hosting it at Walsh that you can't invite all your family members because of the limited space. So this is an excellent potential venue for grad. This is the second floor. The shaded area is like a balcony overlooking the courts. This is similar to what is in the arena in Fort Macleod, where you have a top floor and a glass wall, so you can overlook the activities on the courts below. This is also set up with a bar, so that there can also be beverage services up here. There's offices, storage, and bathrooms. Here's an external view. So here's our proposed location, the corner of First Avenue and the access road to the West Winds Ball Diamonds. We have presented this to the town of Fort Macleod and they have agreed. We have received a lease already for this location. It may be adjusted slightly, but it will be out here in this area by the West Winds ball diamonds. This is just a sketch as to how that property will be utilized, with the building and the parking lot taking into consideration lots of parking for buses. When you saw the plans earlier, there's a patio out the back door. That patio leads to an area for sand courts. When I participated in the Southern Alberta Summer Games, when they were hosted in Pincher Creek, they had sand courts that were temporary, they were portable. And so that's what we plan on doing here, is not having permanent sand courts, just a place to have them. They're also back there around the sand courts, it's going to be a green space with picnic tables and lots of places to be outside when there's an event going on. Okay, so why we think this is a great idea and how it kind of fits into the goals and the needs of the Livingston Range School Division. To promote growth, we host events that bring people into our community. These people support local businesses, and as the envy of other communities, we hope to attract new residents as well, which, you know, new residents means more kids in the school. Improved appearance. This is a beautiful facility that will improve the area. It is built in and will hopefully inspire more athletic amenities to boost the area even more. Since we have been in conversation with the town, we have proposed this facility, and it's already started the ball rolling for rugby facilities to be out there, soccer facilities to be out there, the improvement of the baseball facilities that are out there. So when we have this main structure that has the kitchen area, the cafeteria, all the other facilities don't need to include that as well. They can just be extra facilities and keep ours as the home base. We're the heart of the recreational area that is out there. Develop relationships. The town is in full support of this facility, and we are looking to get the support and build relationships with other community organizations, not only just within Fort Macleod, but we hope through the other schools within the school division as well. New facilities. With the support of the council, the FMBC is committed to raising the funds to build this facility. That's a really key point right there that we want to bring out, that we are not here to ask you for money. We have other avenues that we will be exploring for this. We as the council, Fort Macleod Volleyball Club, is committing to raise the money for this facility. And then positive future. It has been our observation that communities that have strong athletic programs, they support the physical, social, and emotional needs of their residents, and including obviously the students of these places. And so we've seen this a lot in our lives and in our experience, that youth who have grown up with really strong athletic experiences, they develop many skills, many lifelong skills when they have these positive experiences. And we want to give an opportunity for as many people as possible here in Fort Macleod, and expanded into the Livingston Range School Division to have an excellent athletic experience here. So how can you be involved? What we would like from the school division is a letter of support. We will be putting together lots of different grant proposals as our committee moves forward. And we would really like an endorsement from the Livingston Range School Division, recognizing that this is a good project, it's a positive project, and it will have an excellent effect on the well-being of the students and the communities as a whole. And also, we would like you to share your knowledge with us as we move forward. We know that there's certain expenses that are going to happen with this facility. We would love your information on that. Also, any ideas? Yeah, any ideas along the way. Any grant opportunities that may arise, if you could share those with us, that would be excellent. So again, thank you very much for this opportunity to be able to present this to you. And does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Chelsea, so much. If you could just stop sharing your screen, then I can just see everybody else.
Okay, is that good?
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you. Trustee McKee, you have a question?
So does the complex that you are proposing there, the volleyball courts be changed into basketball courts? or is it just going to be for volleyball?
Well, our original thought was we were only going to lines the floor for volleyball, but we've had a good meeting with Lethbridge College and a few other groups in the town, and they think that it's a good idea for us to lines it for basketball as well, because you can have hoops and stuff that can be taken down. Like one thing that we didn't want is, have a nice facility for a big conference and a wedding and stuff and have basketball hoops hanging, to me, that doesn't look good. So when Todd had said, and I think the Gunderson, Mo had said too, that you can get basketball hoops that can be taken up and down easily, and
completely removed,
and then just stored. That has pretty much changed our mind that we will be open to lining it for basketball as well. And you'll notice when we built the bleachers, we're going to build them so that they can retract all the way into the wall, and then they can be closed in. So that also, we're just trying to take it. So if it's going to be used for a nice big conference or a wedding, it doesn't look too gymsy, I guess, is the key. And then also there'll be a retractable wall similar to they have at the college, so that multiple events can be going on at this function at the site at once. You can have
basketball on one side and volleyball on the other.
And then upstairs, that area can be used for meetings too, right? So, there's lots of room out there for multi things to be going on.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions at all for Chelsea or Mike? Well, thank you so much, you guys, for coming to present to us. We will discuss this as a board for sure, and then we will get back to you as soon as possible.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. All right, everybody, that was the last of our board meeting agenda today. We are just now on to our 3 key messages. What would you like to see today for our 3 key messages? Trustee Long?
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I've got 4.
Well, when do we ever just have 3? Not very often.
Should we mention our recommendation about piloting the curriculum?
Yeah.
Should we mention anything about the research on adjusted school week?
What do you mean research on adjusted school week?
Well, that we're going to have administration look into 4-day school weeks, extended school week, and a comparison of, and we're going to look at it in September.
We're not looking at extended. Now we're just looking at a shortened, right?
Just on the 4 days.
Let's discuss it.
No, let us not.
Okay, I'm just throwing them out there.
I think our
tourist
colony
info
presentation.
Yeah, and the tourist info, we can discuss that now, finally.
The Crow's Nest Pass, definitely.
I think those are both great.
And I thought the Hutterite presentation was excellent, and highlight the 8, 9, or 10 possible high school students next September.
Yeah, it's just exciting to see like further education happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
I'd like to go back and discuss the adjusted school week, though, for a few minutes.
Okay, let's just see. Trustee Toon has his hand up, too. Let's see if he has anything to say. Go ahead, Trustee Toon.
Yeah, no, I agree. If we could have, like you said, Chair, if we could have both our presentations highlighted. Like always, it's always great. It always sparks good questions from our school councils whenever I bring them up in my area. Just a question on what Trustee Long just said. It triggered something in my mind. Do we need the second motion to say that we won't be investigating it any further, the 5th day option, and saying that? Because I thought we were going to have a second motion after that. And Trustee Long's joke just triggered that in my mind that we didn't return to that conversation. It was so fun. Let's go back.
Just to rescind the 5-day, that it's no longer needed.
Yeah, rescind is the word I used before, but I don't think that's appropriate because some work has already been done on that. Just something that we will not be moving forward with exploring the 5-day option. Just something vanilla. If somebody wants to wordsmith it while we're in camera or whatever, we can come out in camera and do that.
Okay, or we can even do a notice of motion to the next board meeting. I don't think there's a big rush.
Yeah, no, sounds good.
Okay, so going back to our key messages. So we're going to talk about the curriculum, the Crow's Nest Pass, and both our presentations. And was there anything else? Everybody's good with that?
Well, you didn't mention the adjusted school week, but that's...
I wasn't sure where you guys were on that one.
Well, I think we should mention it because we did. It is on the public. It is recorded in the minutes and that. So.
Okay, so we can just bring forth the motion that was presented to the board today. And
yeah,
Trustee Toon?
Just was discussed.
Are we gonna just? Yeah, I agree with bringing the motion and how it passed. But are we gonna share the survey results? That was what I thought the intent was at this point in time, or later on in the process, or?
Well, the survey results are public knowledge, are public information now, so I can't see why we couldn't. I mean, I don't know if you want to share them all, but just at least some of the conclusions, so they understand why what we're doing.
Or we can even direct them to the link to the presentation too. That's a lot of information to put in a key message in our key messages. Unless you can think of a way to condense it a little bit. I think just bringing forth our motion is the conversation or the motion around that, and then direct them to the presentation. Or do you want to have some specific details alongside the motion? Trustee Toon?
Sorry.
Okay.
I just think having that table with the full summary, just printed off. If that way, it only keeps our key messages to 2 pages instead of doing the whole thing. Because that's what the numbers is. What I've got questions on. What is our school and what is our community, and I think that tells the story enough at this point.
Okay, so just for clarity for Nikki, the motion will be in the key message along with the table with the full summary. Is everybody good with that? Thumbs up. Okay, Nikki, do you have any clarifying questions at all?
No, it all seems pretty straightforward.
Okay, thanks, Nikki. All right, everybody, can I get a recommendation that the Board of Trustees go in camera at 4:06? Can someone make that motion, please? Trustee Long? See you, Savvy.
Hi, guys. Thank you.
See you, Frank.